A car bomb explodes in northeastern Nigeria, the birthplace of Boko Haram. As Hillary Clinton's lead widens, Donald Trump struggles to regain control of his campaign amid party infighting. And how an Australian restaurateur is teaching African refugees job skills and helping break social barriers. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. Now, violence in northeastern Nigeria once again has residents terrified. An explosion in Maiduguri, the capital of Borno State, killed at least 7 people on Wednesday and wounded 15 others. Nigeria's National Emergency Management Agency says that 6 people were killed at the scene and another person died at a hospital. The explosion occurred as a taxi approached a gas station. In the aftermath of the attack, bodies of victims were laying on the ground next to the vehicle as emergency officials inspected the area. There has been no immediate claim of responsibility for the blast. Northeastern Nigeria is the base of the Boko Haram terrorist group. Its 7-year uprising has killed more than 20,000 people. Now, aid agencies warn that northeastern Nigeria is facing a serious food emergency. People are starving. The Boko Haram conflict has displaced over 2 million people. Militants have stolen livestock and insecurity has disrupted trade and is preventing many families from returning to their farms. The situation is particularly precarious for tens of thousands of children who suffer from malnutrition. Chika Odoa reports from Maiduguri.
Around Maiduguri, you can see people lining up to get free food from charities. Sometimes things get out of hand. About 1 million of the people displaced by Boko Haram have come here to Maiduguri. VOA was not allowed to film near the IDP camps. Inusa Isa rode out to meet us. He said he has not eaten a solid meal in 5 days.
We are dying of hunger. Shortly after I came here, my wife died. We just lost a baby 3 days ago that my brother's wife gave birth to. My brother is dead. My father died not too long ago.
The UN World Food Program has been handing out free supplements for children under 2 years of age since July. But some are ending up in health clinics, like this one run by the International Rescue Committee.
They'll have swelling in both their legs due to protein wasting. We'll also see skin breakdown because, again, of protein wasting. We will see severe pneumonias because of when you start to feed, it'll go down into the breathing tube. We will also see congestive heart failure because their bodies are just not able to handle the fluid that comes into their body when we start to feed them.
2-year-old Mariam Ali could barely walk when she arrived at the clinic. Her dusty red hair, a telltale sign of vitamin deficiency. Her family had fled Konduga, about 40 kilometers away. She has recovered enough for her mom to feed her a nourishing peanut-based supplement. Staff say the sooner parents bring their children for treatment, the better. Doctors Without Borders treats the most severely malnourished children in this 110-bed facility. Dr. Jarvid Ali says at least 72 children died here in August.
In other parts of Africa that I've worked in or in Asia, it's usually a chronic situation that at a moment leads to malnutrition or humanitarian crisis. But here, it's very acute. It happened more or less overnight.
He estimates 1 in 7 children in the Borno State capital are malnourished. The situation in rural areas is a top concern.
Only 48% of Borno today is accessible. So we don't even know what the true magnitude is.
MSF has called for a massive relief effort. Nigeria's Emergency Management Agency responded with a statement that the situation in Maiduguri is stable. But people like Inusa look for food every day. Today, he got lucky. Chika Odua for VOA News in Maiduguri, Nigeria.
Well, in East Africa, Burundian lawmakers have decided that they will no longer cooperate with the International Criminal Court. The nation's parliament voted overwhelmingly on Wednesday in favor of withdrawing from the ICC amid a growing dispute over political violence in East Africa and the East African country. Now, 94 of the 110 lawmakers voted to leave the jurisdiction of the ICC. The bill to remove Burundi from the court's jurisdiction will now proceed to the office of the president to be signed by President Pierre Nkurunziza, triggering a withdrawal process that will last a year. Earlier this year, the ICC opened a preliminary investigation into Burundi, focusing on killings, imprisonment, torture, rape and sexual crimes, as well as enforced disappearances. Well, now for more on Burundi's vote to quit the ICC, journalist Moses Avierimana joins me by phone from Bujumbura. Moses, now what has been the reaction to the passing of that bill? Moses, well, looks like we have some technical problem with the line there to Bujumbura with Moses. We can join Moses as soon as we get the line again. Well, coming back here to, rather moving to the Middle East now, to Yemen, where the Pentagon says it is evaluating a military response to failed missile attacks on U.S. naval ships in the Red Sea, warning Tuesday the nearby Yemeni-based Houthi rebels thought to be responsible launched the missiles at their own peril. Officials say the two missiles launched over a one-hour period missed their targets and landed harmlessly in the water Sunday. The Pentagon says that the missiles came from Yemen territory controlled by Houthi fighters who are seeking to topple President Rabu Mansour Hadi. The U.S. military has been providing intelligence and logistics to Saudi-led coalition warplanes, which began targeting Houthi positions inside Yemen earlier this year. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia says it will partially ease the blockade surrounding rebel-controlled areas of Yemen to evacuate people wounded in a deadly airstrike at a funeral last weekend. But analysts say if emergency humanitarian aid is not also allowed into the country, Yemen faces an imminent starvation crisis. Now, for more details on the situation in Yemen, VOA Pentagon correspondent Caleb Babb joins us live for the U.S. military headquarters. Hello, Carla.
Hi, Vincent.
Now, the United States has said that if further investigations reveal that the Iran-allied Houthi rebels, in fact, did attack or launch this attack, there will be some form of retaliation, possibly. What could this be?
Well, I don't want to get ahead of the situation, Vincent. What Pentagon spokesman Captain Jeff Davis said that anyone that targets the United States military does so at their own peril. But let's keep in mind here, the United States is not at war with the Houthis. It's not like when the Islamic State or when Al-Qaeda strikes a military target, we strike back because the United States has an authorization to be at war. This is not the case here. So this would have to go through the channels at the White House and the State Department before anything would happen through the U.S. military.
Now, the Houthis have said, well, we didn't do this, in fact, publicly, but also we are hearing that they may have also communicated this privately. My sense is that they don't want to antagonize the United States. What's your read on this?
Well, it's safe to say here at the Pentagon, no one thinks that antagonizing the United States military is a good idea. The problem with the Houthis is that this strike appears to have come from the Houthi rebel-held territory. That's problem number one. There are Iranian capabilities that the Houthis have that could have caused this. That's problem number two. And the Houthi rebel leader was just saying on Saturday that the United States was responsible for that bombing of the funeral. He was saying that the United States has provided the Saudis with all the equipment it needs. The United States is planning, that was the words he used, planning these airstrikes. And none of that is true. And the United States has been very, very patient and thoughtful in staying out of this war. They have provided the Saudis with some refueling as soon as this week. That is how the United States is helping in this conflict. They're helping the Saudis, their allies, with refueling. But aside from that, the United States has stayed focused on Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, AQAP, and not with this conflict that's been going on since March of 2015.
Now, with this very complex situation, Carla, from what you're hearing, how are things on the ground? Are things getting any better, especially militarily, security-wise?
Well, that's the problem. They're not getting any better. This is a situation that ebbs and flows. Some weeks you'll see improvement and progress, and then some weeks you'll see a failure on both sides to do anything. And the humanitarian situation is not being solved either. So this is a real serious issue for Yemen. They don't have a government that can keep things going, and they don't have a way to get aid in. It's a horrible situation, and many are saying that the United States needs to step forward and needs to start taking part in this conflict to get some aid in. But the Pentagon right now is still staying out.
Okay. Thank you very much, Carla, for your reporting, as always.
Thank you. Anytime.
Thanks. That's Voice of America's Pentagon correspondent, Carla Babb, reporting live from the Pentagon. Now, let's go back to Burundi, where we just mentioned that the country has voted to quit the ICC, the International Criminal Court. Journalist Moses Avierimana is standing by. Moses, do I have you on the line?
Yes. How are you?
I'm fine, and I wanted you to just give us a reaction to this decision that actually really seems to have been speeded up today.
This didn't come as a surprise, as we remember just a few weeks ago when a top government official, that's the first vice president, to say that they are processing of withdrawing from the International Criminal Court. We understand 94 of the parliamentarians in Burundi voted for the withdrawal, with only 2 who were against the leaving the court. However, these 2 opposition members who were against raised concerns about the violation of human rights in the past since last year, where they said the government has failed to address these issues on the national level. So it was work for the ICC to bring the perpetrators to justice. So this one was one of the concerns by the opposition.
Yeah. So now this means the ICC cannot come in, or at least Burundi doesn't have the obligation to cooperate. What are people saying now? What are the options for Burundi, especially those who are hoping to get some justice from an international court?
Well, hopes are fading, of course. I spoke to one of the citizens who was saying, the government itself has failed to investigate on the crimes which have been committed since last year. And remember that the international community and also the Human Rights Office have accused the government and the ruling party supporters, the youth wing, involving in the human rights violation and torture and killings and targeted killings of the opposition leaders. So we don't see any time soon if the government will hold those who are accountable, whom are accused of committing these crimes. And according to the human rights, they say actually it's the government itself.
All right, Moses, thanks a lot for reporting, for joining us today. That's Moses Avierimana reporting from Bujumbura, the capital of Burundi. Now, relief efforts are in full swing in Haiti after a devastating hurricane slammed the country last week. Local officials say the massive storm killed at least 1,000 people, and the death toll may rise with reports of a cholera outbreak. Meanwhile, the U.S. has said it is temporarily stopping Haitians from being deported. Earlier, I spoke by phone with the VOA's Jean-Paul Leroy, who is in Port-au-Prince.
I got a chance to go to the emergency operations center. It's like you have a FEMA in the U.S., but the buildings are different. You have one-level buildings, so we have a lot of people working at the operations center. You can see all the trucks leaving the place and going to those regions affected by the hurricane. So food, medical supplies, I think it's a situation that they are trying to handle properly there. And the most important to understand is the structure that they put in place at the operation center. You have the Ministry of Interior working along with OCHA, an instance of UN that coordinates the humanitarian aid.
Given that the infrastructure has been very severely damaged, and especially coming on the heels of the earthquake that devastated the country, how are those organizations getting the needed help to the people?
They let OCHA coordinate the NGO assistance, and OCHA works with the government. They canalize the assistance. And the communication was difficult. But now they are trying to repair the road, to clean the roads. It's very difficult, but step by step, they are getting there. So the trucks could go. Some region accessible, they reach them. But for the other ones that are not accessible, they use boat, the helicopters of the U.S., the Marines are doing a great job there. The minister, the UN mission, they're helping too. So they try to reach those regions. So far, I can tell you, we have some villages in the south, like Grand Anse. The villages are cut from the other parts of the Grand Anse. The main concern now in Haiti is cholera, with 356 people infected. Health structures have been damaged by the hurricane.
Jean-Paul, this morning I saw a statement from the interim president where he appears to downplay the role that has been played by the international community. What have you heard and what has been the reaction?
Unfortunately, I didn't hear that comment from the president, but I can tell you the Minister of Communication yesterday was very grateful to the assistance of the international community. I think the government has one voice. So far, they are grateful. Without all those friends of Haiti, it would have been difficult for the government to get along with that tragedy, to get along with that big, huge problem that Haiti is facing now.
Well, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry is traveling to Kigali, Rwanda, later this week to attend the 28th ordinary meeting of parties to the Montreal Protocol. The Kigali summit seeks to secure a global agreement on an ambitious amendment to the Montreal Protocol to phase down the production and consumption of hydrofluorocarbons, or HFCs. VOA's Eddie Rem recently spoke to Dr. Vincent Biruta, Rwanda's Minister of Natural Resources, about the summit expectations.
The main topic we'll be discussing will be about amending the Montreal Protocol. The Montreal Protocol is dealing with substances that deplete ozone layer. Those substances have been reduced and the ozone layer is actually healing. But the problem with those substances we are using today in the refrigeration system is that they are good for the ozone layer, but they are contributing to the global warming. This is the reason why we need to phase down those products which are called hydrofluorocarbons. We need to phase down these products so that they don't affect the climate. And while we deal with the ozone layer, we need also to consider not to damage our climate. There is the other component which is related to the amendment we wanted to adopt. We are discussing with various parties to be able to secure an amendment which is ambitious enough but which is consensual as well.
Well, that was Dr. Vincent Biruta, Rwanda's Minister of Natural Resources. Presidential candidates are campaigning hard as the November 8th election day draws near. Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton has seen her voter support rise after Sunday's second debate with Republican opponent Donald Trump. Meanwhile, Trump is continuing to deal with the fallout from the release of a video which offends women. VOA's Zlatitsa Hoke reports.
In her campaign speech Tuesday in Miami, Florida, Clinton used the devastation caused by Hurricane Matthew to address climate change.
Right now, the ocean is at or near record high temperatures, and that contributed to the torrential rainfall and the flash flooding that we saw in the Carolinas. Sea levels have already risen about a foot, 1 foot, in much of the southeast.
Clinton warned that rising sea levels could cost Florida $400 billion in real estate losses within just one generation. Clinton said climate change also affects the nation's health.
Mosquitoes that carry diseases like the Zika virus and ticks that carry Lyme disease are expanding their ranges. And hotter summers and longer pollen seasons are making allergies and asthma worse.
Clinton said as president she would make the United States beat China and Germany in the race to be the world's clean energy superpower. Campaigning with her was former Vice President Al Gore, a Nobel Prize winner for his work on climate change. Gore won the most votes in the 2000 presidential race, but lost in the number of electoral votes. Many blame it on vote tallying in Florida. Gore urged Clinton supporters to cast their ballots to ensure a clear victory. Trump was fundraising in San Antonio, Texas on Tuesday. He has vowed to race to the finish despite waning support or abandonment by many leading Republicans.
On November 8th, the arrogance of Washington, D.C. will come face to face with the righteous verdict of the American voter.
The Republican candidate has a faithful voter base, but a video that emerged Friday in which newly married Trump said he was trying to have sex with a married woman may sway some undecided voters. He has since issued a video in which he apologized for his offensive remarks and said he never acted on them.
Bill Clinton has actually abused women, and Hillary has bullied, attacked, shamed, and intimidated his victims.
In the videotaped message, Trump said he wanted to fight for disadvantaged Americans and pledged to be a better man. Zlatica Hoke, VOA News, Washington.
We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we covered. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa54, and check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Find me on Twitter at VOA Vince Makori. Coming up, the global fight against air pollution. Driving a certain type of car can help. Stay with us.
My name is Carla Babb. Every day it's my responsibility to collect all of the defense news. It keeps our VOA viewers informed. I get to travel all across the globe. Anything that's defense related and how to protect and keep people safe, that's where I'll go. So it's never a dull moment at the Pentagon. My name is Carla Babb. This is my beat.
Well, the World Health Organization warns that 92% of the world's population lives in areas of high air pollution. Many European cities are pledging to phase out diesel cars, and there's hope that sales of electric vehicles could take over as its battery life improves. Here's Henry Ridgewell.
The unseen clouds of toxic gases that choke London streets, revealed using infrared cameras normally used on oil refineries. The company that filmed this footage, FLIR Systems, says it shows air pollution as it is happening. Experts say pedestrians often don't realise how close they are to sources of so-called raw pollution.
One of the difficulties of getting the message across to the public at large in these days is the fact that air pollution, although it's a major public health problem, is actually invisible. Not like the smogs of the 1950s and 60s when you not only could you see it, you could barely see anything else.
So what exactly are we breathing in on traffic-clogged streets?
The main problem that you're breathing in are the particulates, the soot from largely from diesel exhaust, which is the primary problem as far as public health is concerned, and that's responsible for maybe up to around 30,000 premature deaths across the UK. The other pollutant that's more recently become an issue is nitrogen dioxide, again largely from diesel.
Diesel cars are seen as the main culprit of urban air pollution. German carmaker Volkswagen's attempt to fix emissions tests, known as Dieselgate, has sharpened the focus on phasing out diesel engines.
It's quite clear that the car industry is feeling the pressure of a public health crisis owing to air pollution in big cities in particular, and the aftermath of the Dieselgate scandal, and which is the reason why it's looking to produce newer electric models.
At last month's annual Paris Motor Show, electric cars dominated the stands. Volkswagen has announced it aims to sell 2 to 3 million electric vehicles a year by 2025.
Regulation of the industry could be higher. The industry could be held up to a much higher standards when it comes to emissions, thereby making the transformation to electrical vehicles quite fast.
The World Health Organization released data last month showing that 9 in 10 people live in places where air pollution exceeds safe limits. Experts say electric cars could offer the solution, with the proviso that the electricity is generated using renewable energy. Henry Richwell for VOA News, London.
Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54, how an Eritrean restaurant owner is uplifting refugee women in need. We'll be right back.
If you've just joined us, I'm Mariama Diallo, and here is a quick recap of today's headlines. In Ethiopia, the government says it wants to reform the country's electoral system, which has excluded the opposition and generated months of bloody protests. In Spain, police seize a boat carrying nearly 20 tons of hashish headed to Libya that authorities say would finance insurgents in North Africa and the Middle East. In Ivory Coast, lawmakers approve a new constitution draft proposed by President Alassane Ouattara. Finally, in Kenya, Save the Children and the Kenyan government encourage families living in the northeast region, where 4 out of 5 women are illiterate, to send their daughters to school. That's all for today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Welcome back to Africa 54. Here's what's trending. Samsung is scrapping its flagship Galaxy Note 7 smartphone less than 2 months after its launch. Now, the tech giant is finally pulling the plug on the device in what could be one of the costliest product safety failures in the tech history. The decision to scrap the Note 7 came after new reports of fires in replacement devices prompted new warnings from regulators, phone carriers and airlines. Samsung's decision to pull Note 7s off the shelves not only raises fresh doubt about the firm's quality control, but could result in huge financial and reputational costs. Well, and finally, this restaurant in Brisbane, Australia, is providing a taste of Africa, but in its own unique way. Now, the workers at Mu'oz are all female African refugees and asylum seekers. It helps the new residents to earn formal qualifications in hospitality, learn some English, and for many, is their first paying job. But just as vital is the chance to interact with their new community. Saba Abraham started the restaurant in 2006 after fleeing Eritrea. So far, over 140 women have been through Saba's restaurant training, and over 60 women are on a waiting list. And that is what is trending today. And that's our show for today. Now be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. And for more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show Africa News Tonight at 1800 UTC. And in the mornings to Daybreak Africa, that's between 0300 and 0600 UTC Monday through Friday. Thanks a lot for watching. From all of us in Washington, have a good night.
Welcome to Voice of America's Newswords. Listen to U.S. Senator John McCain speaking about the Middle East crisis.
They will pose a direct threat to the security of the United States. I say to the critics who say do nothing and let them fight it out, you cannot confine this conflict to Iraq and Syria.
Here, the word confine means to keep inside, to keep from spreading. Senator McCain was speaking in favor of the United States doing more to fight terrorism in the Middle East.
He said the conflict cannot be contained to just 2 countries. Now, when you hear the word confine, you will know what it means.
For more newswords, visit our website at learningenglish.voanews.com.